welcome to the Enchanted Travel Company channel. My name is Haley. I am a travel planner who specializes in Disney vacation destinations. If you are interested in planning your next Disney vacation, make sure that you visit the links down below and I'd be more than happy to chat with you about making your most magical vacation yet. So I've decided that I'm going to do a series, basically Disney World Vacation Planning 101, that will kind of go through in depth and take you through the steps that you need to do to plan your Disney vacation, what you need to consider, what you should bring, not bring, what different terms mean, because a value resort in Disney World might be something different than a value resort around where you are. To also help you kind of become familiar with different terms such as Genie Plus, resort terminology, park hopping, things like that. In this series, I'm going to break everything down for you that you need to know before going on your next Disney vacation. Today, we're just going to focus on the top 10 things that you should consider before planning your first Disney vacation. If there's anything that you want more information on, any questions that you have, or anything that you want me to explain in depth, make sure that you add a comment down below so I know to include that in my future videos. The first thing that you want to consider when planning out your Disney vacation is going to be the time of year that you want to go, because each season is going to bring different pros and cons when it comes to Disney World. So we'll just start off at the beginning of the year, that winter, January, February, early March time. So that is going to be a time where you're going to see the least amount of crowds because everybody is just getting back from the holidays or back to school, back to work, and it's cold. They are not really planning their vacation or going on their vacation at that time. During this season, you're also going to see cooler temperatures, so you're not going to be in the 100-degree Florida heat. It's going to be typically cooler, but January and February are cool and they're going to be less crowded. So the next season with spring, you're going to see a little bit warmer weather, but another thing you're going to want to keep an eye out is spring break. The end of March is kind of the start of spring break season, and then it goes all the way until early May-ish. You're going to see a big increase in crowds because everybody's on spring break. So you might have a little bit nicer weather, however you are going to have a little bit more crowded experience in the parks. With summer, again, everybody is going to be on summer break. It is typical to go on a summer vacation, so you're going to see more people in the parks and at the resorts. And another thing that you have to keep in mind when traveling during the summertime is you are going to be in the Florida heat. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you are planning rest days, you are bringing everything you need to help keep you cool, and you're drinking plenty of water if you do choose to go during the summer months. And then we have fall, which at the beginning of fall, so maybe late August, early September, you do want to keep an eye out for extreme heat. We went last year in August, the second week of August, I believe it was, and it was extremely hot. It felt well over 100 degrees. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. It does kind of cool down the further you get into the fall season, but it can still stay reasonably hot. Another thing that you want to keep an eye out when planning during the fall time is that you do have a potential for hurricanes or tropical storm, because that is the start of hurricane season. And then finally is winter part 2, which is going to be November to December, or your holiday season. And November, December is a beautiful time to go. You do experience a little bit cooler weather. However, your crowds are going to be probably the most during this time frame. So the holiday season does seem to be the busiest season for Disney. So it would be something, if you are going during this time, to keep that in mind and definitely make sure that you are prioritizing what you want to do and not expect to get everything on your list done. The second thing that you should think about when planning your Disney vacations is the number of days that you're going to be gone and what you're going to be doing during those days. So let's say that you think that you want to go to Disney for 5 days. First thing to consider is, are you including transportation in those 5 days? Some people do, some people don't. So if you say, I want to go for 5 days, but day 1, we are going to arrive at Disney, and day 5, we are leaving at Disney. That really gives you 3 full days to experience Disney. So you just need to plan accordingly. Or it might be something, you know what, I want 5 days at Disney, but I'm going to add a day to arrive and a day after, so then your trip ends up being like 7 days with 2 travel days. So just kind of keep that in mind whenever you are deciding the amount of days that you actually want to be gone from your house. Another thing to consider is how many days you want to spend in the parks versus how many days you want to stay at your resort or doing Disney Springs or going to other areas of Orlando. So some people like to do parks all day. So if you are doing 4 parks, you are visiting the parks 4 days in a row. Other people like to make sure that they include some time to rest. So maybe you want to include a rest day or 2 in between your park visits. Or there might be a day you want to go to Universal, or you might want to just experience Orlando. So keep in mind how many park days you want, how many resort days you want, and include that in your time frame. Another important thing to consider is if you have children, it might be best to make sure that you have at least one kind of resort or relaxation day built in between your park visits, because being in the parks can be a lot and it can really wear you out. So it might help you to schedule a few rest days in between to help avoid that meltdown. Number 3 is to figure out what month, week, and day or days you would like to go. Now, this is important to help avoid any potential disappointment if there is something that is scheduled that you really want to do. So, for example, if you really want to stay on a Skyliner resort, if you can avoid going during the week in January where the Skyliner is shut down, you're going to want to make sure that you can do that. However, if you can only go the week the Skyliner is down, you're either going to have to accept that if you stay at a Skyliner resort, you're only going to have bus transportation, or you might pick another resort. Another thing to keep in mind with the month, week, and or day you are going is if there are any ride refurbishments or if there's any renovations being done on the resort that you want to stay at. So it's just to help avoid disappointment on your vacation day. Let's say you really want to ride Rock and Roller Coaster, and when you get there, it's shut down. You don't want to be disappointed. So definitely make sure that you are planning accordingly based on anything that you might prioritize. So definitely have a ballpark of when you want to go, and then see if there's anything going on that might lead to disappointments, and then that way you can kind of shift your priorities around. And with always keep in mind school breaks. Chances are if you have kids and they are on break, the majority of schools in America is probably on break, which means that the parks are going to be crowded. So just keep that in mind. That might be the difference of picking a holiday 3-day weekend or going a few weekends before or after that. Number 4 is going to be your budget. So when planning your budget, keep in mind, is your budget for Disney only, or are you including your transportation in that? Some people might say, oh, I want my vacation to be $3,000, but when you actually get into it, they are grouping everything in that, and their flight is going to end up costing them like $1,000, and now they only have $2,000 to spend for Disney, but they want to stay at a deluxe resort. So create a budget that is going to best fit your priorities, your family, and what you need, and to be realistic about it. If you have a budget of $3,000 and you have a family of 6, it's probably not in the cards for you to stay at the Grand Floridian. But you might be able to get that budget to work at a value resort or an off-property resort. So keep in mind what your budget is and be realistic about it. And when it comes to budget, I'm definitely going to make another video on things to consider and how to kind of create your budget for a Disney vacation. But just some things to consider would be your family size and the ages of your kids. So it's obviously going to cost more for a family who has 6 or a family who might have older kids as opposed to a family of 2 or a family that has a lot of kids who are under the age of 10. And also think about what your priorities are. Are your priorities going to be spending the day at the park? Is it going to be spending time at your resort? Because that's going to help you kind of figure out, where do you want to spend your money? Do you want to spend more money on your park tickets, or do you want to spend more money on your resort? And also keep in mind, what is the focus or what is the type of vacation? Is this a family-friendly vacation? Is this like a honeymoon or an anniversary trip, an adult trip? So those are going to kind of help you decide how much money you want to put for each category. So if it's a family trip, in your budget, you might want to account for character dining or souvenirs or paying for Genie Plus so you can ride rides. If your priority is more of an adult focused trip, then maybe you want to make sure that you save enough money for Epcot and things like that. So definitely think about what your priorities are, what type of vacation you are doing, and do your best to be realistic about what goals you are setting. Number 5 is going to be your travel party. So it's important to know how many people are going to be in your trip and the ages of them. This can help you decide what type of room you need, whether you need 1 room or 2 rooms, if you need a family suite, a villa, things like that. So knowing the number in your party is definitely a good start. But the other thing that goes along with that is to keep in mind the ages of your party, especially if you have children. For Disney, children who are 2 years or younger are considered free, so you do not have to pay for their park ticket. However, they should be on your reservation. And then children who are 3 years old to 9 years old are considered a child, so they get the child pricing, whereas children 10 years and then everybody else 10 years and up is going to be considered an adult. So if you have kids or teens that are 10 years or older, they're going to be paying the adult price, as opposed to a child who's maybe 5 or even a 1-year-old is not going to count. So definitely keep that in mind when you are making your reservations and your budget and everything like that. The other important thing when it comes to children is that you want to consider the child's age at the time of travel. So if you're planning your trip right now for a 2025 vacation, you need to consider how old your child is going to be in 2025. So if they have a birthday that is coming up, that might be something you might want to look at your dates, especially if you have a child who is 2 turning 3 or a child 9 turning 10, because they are going to need a different ticket after their birthday. Now, the thing to keep in mind is prices are based off of the child's age your first day of travel. So if you have a 5-day vacation and your child is 2 on the first day, but then they have their 3rd birthday on your 3rd day of vacation, they're still considered 2 for the entire trip. So you don't need to buy different tickets for them or anything like that. They are considered 2 for the whole trip. Same thing if you have a child who is 9 and then during your trip they turn 10, they are still considered a child and pay the child price for the duration of your trip. Number 6 is going to be to think about your tickets. So you definitely want to keep in mind how many park days you want during your entire trip. Do you want your entire trip to be park day tickets, or do you only want to visit the parks a few times during your trip? So figure out how many days you actually want to spend in the parks. And for Disney World, there are 4 different parks to visit, plus 2 water parks. So you want to keep in mind, do you want a standard ticket or a park hopper ticket? A standard ticket is going to allow you to do 1 park per day, whereas a park hopper ticket will allow you to visit any of the 4 parks throughout the day. So you could start off at Animal Kingdom, and then you could go to Epcot and then Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom all in one day if you wanted to. The other thing is, would you want to visit the water park? Now, it depends which one is open depending on the time of year you go, but they do have Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon as options for water parks. So if that is something you would want to add, then you need to keep that in mind. The last one is going to be what parks you want to visit. So do you want to visit all 4 parks? Do you only want to visit 1 or 2? So keep in mind, kind of look at the descriptions and what each park has to offer to decide if that is a park that you want to visit during your time. So number 7, you want to consider what resort you would like to stay at, or at least what category. Do you want to stay on property or do you want to stay off property? Both have pros and cons that we'll get into much later on. But as far as Disney resorts go, you have value resorts, moderate resorts, and then you have deluxe resorts. And the different price categories come with different accommodations. All three categories, no matter what, gives you Disney transportation to and from the parks and Disney Springs, and it gives you your typical Disney hospitality. So you can't really go wrong with any of the options. The value resorts are very nice, just like the deluxe ones. Just the deluxe, you're going to have nicer accommodations. And then the moderate is just somewhere in the middle. Number 8 is if you want to include a dining plan. So a dining plan, depending on what you eat, how much you eat, etc., it can save you money, it can break even, or you could actually kind of lose money on it. So that's something that you're going to want to do a breakdown and truly think about what you're going to eat, how much you're going to eat to decide if you want to add a dining plan. Other people just like to have a dining plan so everything is taken care of and they don't have to budget food in addition to their park tickets and just all wrapped into the same price. So think about if that's something, if you want to include a dining plan or if you want to pay for your meals a la carte. Number 9 is to decide if you want to book your vacation as either a package or if you want to book your room and your ticket individually. So both have pros and cons to them. If you book your ticket and your package individually, this might be beneficial to those who have a discounted ticket, such as a military ticket. A package is going to include your park tickets, your resort, and then if you do add a dining plan, it will have that in the pricing as well. It just depends on what is going on at the time that you're booking, as well as the time you're traveling, to decide if one is going to be more beneficial than the other. Sometimes there are different specials and promotions that are ran for room only. Every once in a while they'll do like a 4-day 4-park magic ticket that might save you money if you book separately. Benefits to booking a package is they might have some promotions on the package, but the big plus to doing a package is that you can pay for your vacation. You have until 30 days before your time of travel to pay off your vacation. So that's something you can make payments every month. You can pay it all up front. You can pay it every other month, whatever you want to do. With the package, you do have a little bit more flexibility with the payments. And the 10th thing is going to be transportation. So the biggest thing is, how are you going to get from your house to Disney? Are you going to fly? Are you going to rent a car? Are you going to drive your own car? Are you going to take a train, Uber, whatever it may be? How are you going to get there? If you are flying, then you want to consider how you're going to get from the airport to your resort. Do you want to book a shuttle such as Mirror's Transportation? Do you want to Uber? Do you want to have private transportation? Are you renting a car? So consider how you're going to get from the airport to Disney itself. If you do bring your own car or if you rent a car, you get free parking at the Disney resorts and at the parks as long as you are staying on property. If you stay off property, then you do have to pay a fee to park. If you are staying off property, that might be something, if you do have your own car, that you want to consider. Some hotels are going to charge you a parking fee, some may not. So that's just kind of something to consider when you are looking at resorts or transportation. So just know that Disney does provide transportation within the Disney bubble. So once you get to Disney property, they have you taken care of. You can use their buses. They have some boat transportation, monorail, Skyliner, different things like that. So once you're in the Disney bubble, you do not have to use outside transportation unless you absolutely want to. That brings us to the conclusion of the 10 things that you should consider while planning your Disney vacation. If there is something that you think that you should consider while planning your vacation that I didn't include, make sure you leave that in a comment down below. Again, if you have any questions or anything that you would like to see me go more in depth in a later video, also include that in the comments, and make sure that you like and subscribe so you do not miss out on any more videos in this series. I will see you in my next video.